has found that the first lady, that is Lakshmi, was actually the wife, and therefore this second lady, the claimant, was not the wife, then in which case she could claim under the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. That's why it was relevant.
1 second. As an experienced lawyer, you know, the Supreme Court shall only decide the case which is before it. Before the Supreme Court, it wasn't the case of Domestic Violence Act, it was a case of maintenance. The Supreme Court has several judgments which say that in 125 cases, in section 125 cases, if there is an existing wife, the other person cannot get any maintenance. If I was this person's lawyer, the second wife's lawyer, I would say go back and file a case under the Domestic Violence Act. Because under the Domestic Violence Act, any person in the nature, living in the nature of marriage, that is until the Supreme Court judgment is clarified, you can't get it. Under the Domestic Violence Act, the second wife could have got maintenance which she may not have got.
But here's the key question, and that who determines what is in the nature of a marriage? It is such an institutionalized, descriptive phrase to determine a relationship. Kabir, having been through marriage and now in a partnership which is not a marriage, do you accept this phrase?
You know, while I would also question the wisdom of the judge in using such a archaic word, the fact of the matter is, let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. Something very important was established in this case, and that is, how do you define a relationship in the nature of marriage? And they've said, if you live together, if you are single, in other words, able to be married, if you cohabit willingly, if you hold yourself out to society, saying we are a couple. So I think something very important has been established here, that they have defined what, according to this act, is eligible for those protections, which is fantastic, because my partner today has all the protections under the Domestic Violence Act that a married woman would have.
And you think it's okay to exclude, and that's where the controversy is, other kinds of relationships, dalliances, one-night stands, the rest of it.
The thing is, Barkha, the thing is, it's a very slippery slope. It's something which is very hard to legislate, given the sheer diversity of human nature and the kinds of relationships that exist.
One of the big debates around maintenance, for those of us who are old enough to remember, was the Shah Bano case, which was then reversed through an act of parliament. You were involved, ma'am, in that case as one of the lawyers for Shah Bano. There is a great deal of confusion as to what happens to Muslim women today, because while some would say the Shah Bano case judgment ensured that the Muslim personal law is what applies, the Supreme Court has actually since then, if I'm not wrong, in the Shabana Bano case, actually said no, even a Muslim woman is entitled to maintenance even after the 3-month iddat period. Where do Muslim women stand in this debate?
I think there is a lot of misconception about the Shah Bano case. Shah Bano case judgment is a good law and holds good today. It's relevant, it can be relied upon. Here the question which really becomes very important is whether a Muslim woman is entitled to maintenance under section 125 CRPC or not.
Yeah.
And that battle I still have to win. Now, the maintenance has nothing to do with meher. Meher is a consideration amount for agreeing to enter into a contract of marriage. So therefore, it's a part of the contract of marriage. As far as maintenance is concerned, that is an obligation. You see, the verse of the Quran, 241, Mataun bil Maruf, which very clearly says that it is responsibility of a man to maintain his wife even after divorce.
And Kamal Farooqi, while I think Sonal Mansingh and Khushbu have made the point that where there is a woman who earns enough to maintain herself, what about poor women? Poor women who are abandoned by their men, who may seek other relationships. Why would the Muslim Personal Law Board resist this concept of maintenance for Muslim women that Sona Khan is talking about?
No, I think whatever she has said, most of it is absolutely all right. But as far as the maintenance are concerned, Shah Bano case was not actually objected by us mainly because of this maintenance, but it was objected on some larger issues, that the judges have got no right, they have got no right to interpret the Quran or for that matter any religious book. The topic here today is whether whatever the language has been used, it is correct or not, number one. And number two, what about this living relationship at all? Without offending anybody, Islam is very clear about it. And Islam absolutely do not recognize these kind of relationship, because Islam have the relationship between the man and woman. It's a very pious one, and it has to be through marriage only. All other relationships,
so you're saying that
all other relationships are haram with us.
Who has a relationship outside of marriage is not a Muslim?
No. We are not saying Muslim drink, Muslim go to other places also, but that does not mean. But that is one of the greatest sin. It is one of the greatest sins which is
Quick response to that and then I'll come back to Madhu. Yeah.
We are talking about maintenance. If supposing a Muslim woman is living with a man without marriage and seeks maintenance, I think in India she will have the right to do so as an Indian citizen. Because the mandate of the Quran does not say that a woman, whether whatever she is doing, has to suffer or has to go hungry or has to not to live with dignity.
The domestic violence law is religion neutral. That's something you should tell your viewers.
Yes.
Under the domestic violence law, it doesn't matter whether you're a Hindu
Yes.
or a Muslim.
Exactly.
And a Muslim woman who lives in with a Muslim man
on
without
today,
marriage
this is the
can claim
position.
maintenance.
As on today, this is the position what you are talking
Correct.
about. But that is the reason, in fact, we object to this also.
Yes.
That this particular.
Or help us in another
Yeah,
judgment.
this is another thing. That's another thing. That's another thing. That's another thing. What I'm trying. Please understand that we do not recognize these living
But sir,
relationship
whether you
or any
recognize
relationship,
violence against women?
relationship beyond marriage.
Recognize violence against Muslim women?
Absolutely not.
There is no violence against Muslim
No,
women.
but violence is a natural.
So then
it's a human.
all we are saying is to protect women from violence.
We are not debating the law
but
here.
Faruqi-
We are debating, listen, Barkha, we are debating the relationship. We do not recognize this relationship
Actually,
at
it
all.
all comes down to the same germane point, which is that unless you have a sort of socially sanctioned relationship, which is what the court seems to be suggesting, are you not entitled to the same rights that women in those relationships are? Now, we are going to
Absolutely
take
not. Absolutely
you
not.
are saying that.
Absolutely not.
So you're
I'm saying it.
So you're saying if a Muslim woman gets beaten by her boyfriend, she doesn't have recourse to law
that's
because,
obviously,
she's,
yes,
not,
she
because
should-
she's not married.
No, this is a different thing. This is a different thing. Beating
is
by,
related.
No, beating somebody by somebody is a different thing. But having this kind of sexual relationship with a person who is not married, this is absolutely haram. That is not absolutely
Alright, I can say
whatever you say. This is. I am talking about my religion. I am not concerned about the other thing. I am talking about my religion.
Is it why the women get stoned to death and the man who raped her goes scot-free?
Oh, she needs 4 witnesses.
Should be.
We will take a break. When we come back, let's go back to the larger principles. Kamal Faruqi, I'm afraid you're in a desolate minority.
Whatever it will. We are the minority. We are the minority.
We are taking a break.
What is the
We're
problem?
taking a break. We need to come back to the larger principles that have been raised by this entire debate. We will take a break and ask Madhu why she thinks it's not that simple and take your questions after the break. You're watching We the People. We're debating the recent Supreme Court judgment that talks about whether a woman and a man who are not in a relationship that comes close to marriage, which is pretty much what the court is arguing, allows for that woman to ask for maintenance from her partner. Before we go back to our panel, let's get some questions from the audience.
I need to ask you a question that for cohabitation we should have different laws coming in being. It's a different institution altogether, like marriage in our country. We cannot just leave cohabitation aside,
Out of the domain.
Out of the domain. We need to cover it properly. And we need to rise above religion and parochialism out here now. We're living in the 21st century. Now we need to rise above that. We have to come of age.
Sonal, if I can ask you, before your second marriage, you actually lived with your partner for many years. And at that time, it wasn't perhaps as simple as it is today in certain urban pockets at least. Did you ever worry that, oh, if this relationship ends because you were not married at that time, I won't get ABC in terms of support or maintenance, or did that not matter to you?
Barkha, I have earned my living since 18 and a half when I ran away from my parental home. And it's not been an easy life. I've had to sell my gold bangles, I've had to do many things. But I think there's a certain value attached to my way of thinking, that self-respect above everything else. And even if the man can afford it, if he does not offer of his own volition, I'm not the one to spread out my hands. And sorry to say, none of them offered, and I didn't ask.
All right, let's get a question here.
Hi, actually I just had a comment. I just wanted to say that just because some people don't accept live-in relationships doesn't mean they don't exist. And if we don't accept them, the world is changing. You're just going to get stuck behind if you don't accept something.
Kamal Faruqi, this is for you,
absolutely.
this is for you.
No, straight question to me.
No,
Yes.
but park the thought because you'll set another battle. You'll start another battle here. So I just want to get a few more questions.
Okay, I just wanted to say that this this whole law isn't with reference to the man. What about the women? What if the woman wants to keep a man and the man asks for maintenance? Why is it so sexist?
So you're saying that a man should also be able to ask for maintenance?
Yeah, they should include both the gender.
That's already there in the law.
Sanjay?
That's already there in the law, not in the domestic violence law. Under the Hindu Marriage Act, a man and a woman can claim maintenance against each other or alimony against each other.
So you're saying, because this is not generally known, you're saying that alimony, when it comes to marriage, is gender neutral. A man can claim alimony.
Only for Hindus. Only for Hindus under the Hindu Marriage Act. And also, when we were in the process of, we were involved in the drafting of this law, domestic violence law. Yeah. There were a lot of people who said, why don't you include men? Because men also face violence from women. And this was, and this was a conscious decision not to include men, because knowing the legal system and knowing how things function, the moment a woman would ask for maintenance, the mother-in-law would file another case against the woman. So that is why this was made specifically to protect only women, and men can't use this law.
So I'm just underlining this, that while the Domestic Violence Act does not apply to men, under the Hindu Marriage Act, men can claim alimony.
That's correct.
All right, so that makes it a little more equitable, I think, in the eyes of the modern woman at least. Go ahead with your question.
First of all, I do not think the woman should get alimony. The mistress supposedly should get alimony. First of all, she got into a relationship with the married man, which is really wrong, number one. And secondly, I think the wife should just dump the man and get the alimony as she deserves it.
So you think that the second woman has no rights?
No, she got into why would you get into a relationship with a married man?
But live-in relationship is not about being involved with a married man alone. In today's world, women are not talking about getting involved with a married man.
Yes, but if you're not involved with a married man, then according to the judgment, you will get rights of maintenance. The problem is when you are involved with a married man, because then it impinges or dilutes the rights of the wife.
But I'm just saying that, again talking about Tamil Nadu, or why Bollywood. I mean, there are enough men who have what they call more than one